just go ahead and do our general introductions for the day and the week. And again, this Our Ancestors Voices program is sponsored by the All African People's Revolutionary Party every Sunday at the same time. And of course, every episode is videotaped and you can access it on several mediums, which we'll talk about at the end. The APRP is a revolutionary, independent, mass Pan-African political party, which is based in Africa. That's our national home as African people. Despite all the confusion about who we are and what our home is, there's absolutely no question that everybody of African descent, our national home is Africa. And the reason why there's no question about that is it's the only land base in the world that we have any right to. All of us that live in these countries in the Americas, these lands belong to the indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere. This is not our home. And every time we call it our home, we're basically normalizing and justifying the theft from the indigenous people. And I just ask our people to think for a moment about this. If something was stolen from you and it was occupied or it was housed by the people who stole it from you, and everybody talked about them having your property like it belonged to them, how would that make you feel? So every time that we call these lands our home, we're basically telling the indigenous people to hell with you and the injustices that were perpetuated against you. That's subjective. It doesn't matter whether we mean it that way or that's all a bunch of BS. Objectively, that's what we're doing. It's not about feelings. That's what we're doing. And the problem with that is I don't know how the hell we expect people to empathize with our suffering when we're unwilling to empathize with theirs. That's never gonna, that's just not good math. If we want people to respect our struggle for justice, we got to be willing to do the same for their struggle for justice. That's just objective. So our home is Africa. It's the only land in the world we have any justifiable right to claim. And that's why we claim it. And we should claim it. And the people, those of us who don't want to claim it, is because we don't know anything about it. Because if we knew about it, we would know that our future is intrinsically tied to what happens in Africa. It's certainly not tied to what happens here. Nothing about what this country is doing is representative of anything that's in our interest. Name one thing that this country is doing that's designed to facilitate a positive outcome for African people in this country or anywhere else. You can't name one thing. So this is why we say Africa is our national home. And we see Pan-Africanism defined as one unified socialist Africa as the solution to the problems we face as African people scattered and suffering all over the planet Earth. And our work to achieve Pan-Africanism, we outline in very clear terms in Kwame Nkrumah's Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare. So don't ask us to explain the handbook to you in 30 seconds. You got to do your homework. You got to study it. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not worth our time trying to talk to you about it, because it's a serious topic that desires serious attention. And that's what we give it. So if you want to understand it, that's what you have to be willing to give it. And if you're not willing to do that, then just say, well, I'm not willing to give any time to it. And that's why I don't know. Don't act like the reason why you don't know is because we don't want to tell you, or there's some other thing, other type of agenda happening behind it. It's just that you're intellectually lazy and you don't want to do the work to understand the Pan-African movement, which is well over 100 years old, 125 years old almost. You don't want to do any work to understand a movement that old, that our people are involved in all over the world. It's much easier to focus on nonsensical things. So do the work and you can understand it. The book is there, read it. And if you do, you'll understand the work that we're engaged in. And Our Ancestors Voices is a program hosted each week by myself, Ajamu, and Shakura, my biological and ideological daughter. And we are both active organizers within the All African People's Revolutionary Party. So we thank you again for joining us. And to get us started on this week's topic of what's love got to do with it, I will turn it over to Shakura.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, kind sir. I appreciate you. Greetings, everyone. We hope you are safe. We hope you are well. So, yes, we would start with understanding this base, if you will, that, we have said this since the beginning of these seminars, but it strongly bears repeating because the system has so much intended propaganda that is very effective. And so we have to work 3 times as hard to push back against the propaganda, to resist it, and to continue to share the truth. Because the propaganda is not pushing out truth and humanity, it's pushing out lies and exploitation. And so, in understanding that, since we speak about humanity, we should understand that the world that we live in, specifically that's driven by profit over people, cannot and will not acknowledge that humanity is relevant, that humanity is important, that people matter, that social life matters, and that any of these things are critical to the continued development of our society as a whole. None of that is going to matter if it is a threat to capitalism. And we've said the definition before, we will say it again. Understanding that capitalism is a system that ensures that private corporations continue to profit and continue to make and generate income, whether they're selling devices, whether they're selling materials, whatever, they are making income and allowing that system to continually cycle itself. So if you become a threat to capitalism, then you have to be removed, because we cannot, as a society, be more concerned about people over money. That is just absurd. And this is why we live in a capitalist society, because people are not more important than money. Money is more important than people. And so if we understand that, that's really the basis for how we do everything that we do. And if you understand that, then you understand that there's really no way that you could be a person who loves other people and wants to do what's best for other people, but also be a capitalist. As I just pointed out, the two don't go hand in hand. You have one system where people are irrelevant, they're critical, they matter, they're significant, they're important, and we need to figure out a way to collectively work together because we are all we have at the end of the day. And then you have another system that will stop at nothing to terminate, murder, kill, or destroy any threat that gets in the way of the system profiting so that private corporations and entities can continue to make money. Those two do not go hand in hand. So you can't really expect capitalism to welcome and value humanity, because there's no way that capitalism would even have the ideological capabilities to even understand how to do that. The system was never designed to be humane. It was never designed for that, because it excludes all other corporations and businesses and prioritizes private corporations and businesses, which means it doesn't even value mom and pop stores. It doesn't even value other entities that are not private to continue to profit in their way. As far as capitalism is concerned, you're either with us or you just aren't qualified to be with us and you're a threat to us. So we got to get you out the way. You're a threat. So we need to neutralize you. And so just understanding that, I think it's really, really key. And we see examples of capitalism, but I'm not sure if we really can pinpoint this is capitalism at its best. And so, like, just thinking about how today's broadcast is about managing your relationships in a healthy way while you still prioritize your work as a revolutionary Pan-Africanist, or maybe you're not a Pan-Africanist, but maybe you are an organizer that's in an organization working for justice. We all should at least be the second one if we're not the first one, but yes, we'll get to that in a second. Every single one of you should be in an organization that's working for justice. But because this broadcast is about managing and maintaining relationships, be they intimate, be they friendships, whatever they may be, relationship with your parents, whatever, managing those relationships in a capitalist society while you are doing organizing work because you're in an organization that's working for justice. We're going to give some examples today about how we're trying to practice that. Both Comrade Ajamu and myself are both organizers within the All African People's Revolutionary Party. He has a lot more years than I do, and I'm still learning what it means to be an organizer, but I'm trying my best to learn quickly and to get my feet wet so that I can continue to advance my legacy within this organization and move myself up. And so I say that to say this: I've had several relationships throughout my life while I have decided to become an organizer, and I'm continuing to try to figure out how to manage those. But yet I see how capitalism can be such a dangerous threat throughout all of that. We can have numerous examples, and I can give you an example just last night, as a matter of fact. I went out to dinner and I went to a restaurant that I had a reservation for, and they told me, hey, there's going to be like a 1 to 2 hour wait, even though we had a reservation for it. And I thought, oh, this is really interesting. Okay. And, we're already in this world where people are impatient. They're not used to waiting and they don't want to be inconvenienced. And I think that's been further exacerbated since the quarantine and the lockdown, where people are just not interested in being patient. They're not interested in being kind anymore. They're not interested in understanding that the world doesn't revolve around them, because it most certainly does all the time. And they're not interested in being inconvenienced, but they don't have to think about how other people are inconvenienced as well. This is why capitalism is driven off of selfishness, which simply just does not work. But neither here nor there. So 1 to 2 hour wait, even though we have this reservation. Okay. Then it's one of those restaurants where they can cook the food in front of you. And so the manager just basically says, I just want to be transparent with you all and let you know that we have 2 chefs tonight. And I'm thinking to myself, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's at least 12 grills. You have 2 people that are supposed to work all 12 of these grills. Well, no wonder you haven't seated everyone, because everybody's going to be waiting for the chef to finish at the first grill until they can come to the next grill. And I immediately thought, when they said we have 2 chefs tonight, I thought to myself, that's because of capitalism. A lot of people would probably be like, man, why they call out to work today? No, I'm smart enough to know it's much deeper than that. And I got the reasoning later as to why they called out, and I'm gonna get to that in a minute. But the reason you only have 2 chefs and you have 12 grills is because of capitalism. And so further on, as we continue the story, it would come to be known that the whole reason I went to that restaurant was because I wanted to get tofu steak. They have a really good tofu steak and it's very tasty. And I had a strong urge and craving for it. So I went to get this meal and the waitress took my order. That was probably 8 o'clock when we were seated, even though we had a 7:30 reservation. The waitress took my order. We sat down and we didn't leave the restaurant until about 10:15. Mind you, another waitress had to come up to me and say, yeah, I'm just going to tell you, because she's too scared, we don't have any tofu. And I'm thinking to myself, it's 9:45. Why hasn't anyone said anything to me? I'm sitting here literally waiting for my food. And no one thought to say, oh, we ran out of tofu. Let's let this young lady know so that she's not still craving this tofu. I don't understand what's happening. Again, capitalism. Okay, so I'm thinking, what, did the truck not come with the tofu? Did it not come because maybe a driver got sick? And because this driver doesn't have health insurance with their employer, they weren't able to get the help that they needed. Maybe they ran out of gas. Maybe the gas is too expensive and they couldn't afford it. But I'm not going to sit here and blame a human for not having tofu when there is a systemic problem here that is forcing someone to come and tell me that my order cannot be fulfilled, when all the while she's too scared to tell me because she's too afraid that I'm going to go off on her because too many other people have already done it. That's also a representation of capitalism. Not to mention, you only have 2 chefs tonight, which begs the question, why didn't everybody else come to work? Well, I would come to find out later that the same waitress who came to tell me they didn't have any tofu also said, yeah, we had several people who just walked out and they quit. Capitalism. They're tired of unlivable wages. They're sick of it. They're fed up. They deserve to make more money. I understand that. I am in support of that. I'm proud of them for that. The alternative of that then is that now all these people are left trying to fend and make up for the fact that you seriously need to post some more jobs. But the question becomes, who's going to want to take your place? Because everybody knows that working in the service industry is trash. Everyone knows that, because no one wants to tip, no one wants to value you, no one wants to appreciate you, no one wants to make you feel heard or make you feel valued as a service person. So yeah, all these positions are open, but it's not like people are rushing to get those jobs filled. Also, I'm thinking to myself, this is really a trip, because you only have 2 chefs here. So even the people who are getting to go orders are having to wait 20 to 45 minutes. The people who have been seated are having to wait 20 to 45 minutes. And people who want to sit at the actual grill, they may not be seated for another 4 hours. And so my point is, you all, some of you support this system up and down. You love capitalism. You would fight for it. You would give the shirt off your back. And I have never understood why you would die for such a vicious system, a system that makes a person feel so scared of just telling me that she don't have no tofu, that she can't even articulate those words to me, when she works in an industry where she literally is responsible for communicating about food needs all day long. That's a trip to me. It's also a trip to me that none of them feel valued, and they literally just get treated like everybody knows crap every single day, and yet the world just goes on and everything matters. I said to her when we first sat down, I said, thank you for being here. I said, I know you're going through a lot. I can tell it's very busy here and you don't have as many hands to help you. And she kind of sighed and she was like, yeah, thank you. Because no one has said that to her all day. This is why humanity and capitalism are oil and water, because no one has said that to her all day. All day, people have been complaining because she ran out of tofu, and they didn't think to themselves, maybe it's not her. Maybe there's a systemic problem as to why there's no tofu. This is why you have to think critically, because you can't just go around blaming one individual person because your needs are not being met. There's a systemic reason for that. And now you're making these people come to work when they really need more support and they don't have it. Mind you, they're not even making a livable wage. So it begs the question, you should have just closed the restaurant down for that night. But that's also a capitalist reason. You got to stay open because you got to make money, right? Got to make money. Got to make money. Can't close because then other restaurants will make more money than you on a Saturday night. Okay. But how much money did you lose? Because now me and the people I went with are probably not going to go back for a while. In addition to the three other tables that were sitting next to us, all of us were extremely displeased. So my point is, this is a vicious system, you all, and it doesn't have to care about the fact that I didn't get my tofu. That's not the point. What I'm saying to you is it makes people put in vulnerable situations because they have bills and they need to survive and they have a life that they have to manage. But if you are not earning a livable wage, it is very difficult to do so. Meanwhile, you see on the slide, it talks about how it makes it really hard for you to value human life. Well, that's true. Because now you're in situations where you're scared of how people are going to treat you. We can actually move to the next slide because I think you talk about it on the next slide too. We're actually scared of how people are going to treat you because you've been so vulnerable with people just disrespecting you all your life, especially if you experience oppression in addition to trying to be a humane person. I experience things like that all the time where I try my best to express gratitude to people in service industries, and they are always so taken back by the approach that I have because no one has valued them in that way, and they don't understand why I'm any different. Well, that's because I'm in an organization that's working for justice. And I understand that every problem that we have is because of capitalism. I am very clear about that. Any problem you recommend, if you tell me you ran out of peanut butter in your pantry tonight, I guarantee you it's a connection to capitalism. And I can tell you how. I can tell you how, because that's how we have to start thinking. That's how we have to start thinking so we can understand this a little bit better. And so, as I prepare to close, I feel like I've done a good job talking about this slide, so I will wrap it up. But just understanding you all, that doesn't mean that because people are not used to you displaying humanity, that you should not display it. I will say, if you join an organization that's working for justice, you're reminded every day of why you do the work and why it's so important. You're reminded of that every day. You're reminded of the fact that people should not have to come to work and be afraid that, excuse me, someone is going to be irate or belittle them. You should not have to work in situations and environments like that, but yet people do all the time, which is why we have more strikes taking place. This is why we have more people walking out. This is why we have more people who are quitting, because they are fed up and they are tired and they deserve better, and they are right. They do. And then we talk about them and we say, well, they need to come to work. Why? They make $3 an hour. Would you be able to live off of that? I would not be able to live off of that. And I would not want to deal with the constant attitudes and the disrespect that comes with this. But yet, that's the reality, you all. So when you live in a capitalist society, everything is individualistic, and you're also being taught that it's okay to disrespect other people. This is why oppression is so exacerbated under capitalism. This is why exploitation is so exacerbated under capitalism, because it's appropriate, it's consented for you to devalue and dehumanize people every single day. You're celebrated, as a matter of fact, if you do that. This is why we have parks and community centers and schools that are named after rapists. and indigenous murderers and African murderers. This is why, because of how backwards this system is. And you all stand up for this system and you fight for it every day. I do not understand. Make it make sense. I do not understand. Why would we celebrate someone who is known for murdering and raping people and killing children, and yet there's an elementary school named after them? I don't understand. I need someone to help me. I need someone to help me. But yet that's our reality. So at least if you're in an organization that's working for justice, hopefully you are better equipped with resources, materials, armor, ideologically and physically, if you will, to prepare yourself, because we are at war, you all. You better wake up. We are at war. We are fighting for our lives to make sure that capitalism does not take us under. And it is after one thing, our humanity. We cannot let it win. You have to fight like heck to protect your humanity, because at the end of the day, that's all you have left. And if you give that to capitalism, you have nothing left that ties you back to reminding you of why you need to be connected to everybody else who has sacrificed for you. That means you get to forget about all your ancestors who died for you if you lose your humanity. That means you get to forget about the fact that you have a responsibility to this planet. You can't just live here and take the resources and die. It doesn't work like that. You need to contribute something before you die. You need to contribute something so that this world can be a little bit better before you die. And however you decide to do that, whether it's joining an organization that's working for justice, maybe you're supporting a Pan-Africanist organization, maybe you have started your own organization, whatever that looks like, you have a responsibility to do that. This world is not in a good space, and we all need to do what we can to fix it. And our humanity is what drives us to do that. Because if you are selfish, then you don't have to care about the world once you die. But if you are a humane individual, you understand that it was never about you. If you're a humane individual, you understand that the system or the universe, or if you are a religious or spiritual person, whatever entity you pray to, you'll understand that that entity is asking you to make a change because you are capable of making a change. And that person over there is capable, and this person right here, and that person we met last week at the bookstore, and the person we bumped into at the movie theater, all of these people are capable of making change. But we all need to step up to the plate. We all need to take responsibility. We all need to expect ourselves to make change. We can't just sit back and say, well, somebody else is going to take care of it. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. And why not us? Our ancestors didn't have a choice. Our ancestors were literally raped every night so that we could be here today. We need to do that. We owe that to them. They have been through hell and back. We owe that to them. Thankfully, some of us don't have to experience those kind of things today. Some of us are still experiencing those kind of things today. So we owe it to anyone who is experiencing any type of oppression. We have a responsibility to fight back. And we have a responsibility to change the condition, because the children who are not yet conceived, they don't deserve to live in an inhumane world. That's not on them. That's on us. So join an organization that's working for justice, or support Pan-Africanist organizations that are working for justice, or start your own organization that is working for justice. Ashe.
Ashe. Obrigada. And thank you very much. You remind me, Shakur, of Brother Zizwe Poe, Big Brother Zizwe Poe. He used to say to me all the time, we have to convince our people that every problem they have is connected to capitalism. And so thank you for, bringing that back to me, because it's definitely a good way of looking at this topic and every topic that we have. And I think you really bring that out in what you're saying. So let's talk about this particular concept of love, because the issue isn't love. A lot of people are confused. Like, anytime you put something, like you say, a title to this program, what's love got to do with it? You know, we're so conditioned and programmed in this society to think through the lens of the capitalist system that people automatically assume, well, you're saying you must be having a program focused upon the problems in relationships. No, that we're far beyond that, you all. We're far beyond defining our relationship to each other just based on individual and subjective conditions. We know that that's not the reason why we have the issues that we have. We know that most of what is happening to us has been based upon the conditions that have been created for us, and we're just operating based on that. I saw a really good analogy to bring that home. They talked about the scientific element of red ants and black ants. And if you put a bunch of red ants and black ants in a jar together and just leave them alone, there won't be any conflict. But if you shake the jar up, the red ants will start attacking the black ants will start attacking the red ants. And the point is that they do that because the black ants will see the red ants as their enemy. The red ants will see the black ants as their enemy, when in reality, the enemy is whoever shook the jar. And that's really the situation that we're in as a people. You know, you see this everywhere. This, you know, African men raging against African women raging against African men. You see African people, men and women, raging against marginalized gender and non-gender binary Africans. You see this everywhere. And in the reality, as my mother used to say, none of us have a pot to piss in. You know, the reality is that all of us, the things that we're upset about are the direct result of the system that dominates our lives. And that's the big picture, you all. That's what we're looking at. So when we talk about the issue isn't love, that's what we mean. Because love is, without question, a very wonderful thing. It's the very reason that propels us to live this life. In spite of whatever obstacles we face, in spite of whatever problems we encounter, it's the fact that we love the people around us, that we love being able to do the things that bring us joy, that we love seeing people come up and not have to deal with oppressive degradation type realities. This is what keeps us going in life. So we would never do a program that diminished love. We would never talk about love. This is the biggest problem for revolutionaries, is that the capitalist system has convinced so many of you that revolutionaries are angry, violent people. And they do that so that you don't see genuine revolutionaries for what they actually are. People who are filled with love for humanity. As Che Guevara said, quote, at the risk of sounding insane, or whatever word he used, sounding ridiculous, that's the word he used, ridiculous. At the risk of sounding ridiculous, it's love that promotes us to do everything that we do. And that quote by Che is 100% accurate. It's the love of our people that I know for myself that has propelled me 40 years in this particular organization, a few years even before that. Because I'm telling you all, 90% of those, I won't say 90, but let's say 75% of that work, you all, it's been very negative in terms of what comes back. People don't understand revolutionary organizing. They don't understand political organizing. They think that they understand it because somebody on CIA network told them what organizing is. They think that they cannot trust you because somebody on CIA told them that, you know, revolutionaries are dishonest and they're bloodthirsty and manipulative, or whatever type of propaganda they got. So essentially, when you're doing this work, a lot of what you're going to be met with is indifference, disrespect. And that's been the rule. That's the policy. That's not just the exception. It's very seldom. And don't get me wrong, I have a ton of people. I'm more fortunate than most people. I have a ton of people that reach out to me and thank me for my work. Most of the people that do this work have nobody reaching out to them doing that. And they deal with as much negativity as I do, if not more. But that's just the nature of this work. And I get it. I understand it. Like, there's no way in hell that revolutionary organizing is going to be looked at positively in this society. Because if that was the case, then we would be so much closer to achieving revolution. So the capitalist system has to work overtime to convince everyone that revolution is a bad idea. Even people that love me, even people that value me as a human being, or at least believe that they do, there's still always going to be some anathema, some hesitation about the way I live my life and the values that I represent and the work that I do, because that's the conditioning in this society. So it's only love is the only thing strong enough to overcome all of that negativity. If I didn't have the strong capacity to love, there's no way I would be doing this right now. I'd be doing what a lot of other people do, just doing stuff to satisfy myself individually, my own little individual family, and just thinking that that's my contribution to society. That's the bare minimum. Taking care of yourself and your family is the bare. You're not doing anything special. If the people that came before us are people who were kidnapped from Africa, are people who were in the Middle Passage, are people on the plantation, if all they did was look out for their loved ones, your black ass wouldn't even be here today. So that clearly is not anything that you can brag about, that you're looking after your family. That is the bare minimum. And I'm sick of people acting like that makes you some kind of special human being. The people who deserve respect are the people that not only look out for their family and their people, but look out for the community, look out for the world. That's what we need. And it takes a high level of love to be able to understand the necessity to do that and have the capacity to do that. So love is never the issue. Love is never the problem. So what is the problem? The challenge is within a profit-driven capitalist society, what we think is love is not actually love. That's what the problem is. Because in this capitalist society, love is defined through superficial lens. It's defined as materialism. It's defined as superficial things. So that people think that, well, because I love this, I've been able to reach this level of material comfort in life. You don't believe that? Just go to any Christian church today. Go to any Christian church if they have night service tonight, and you'll hear it before your very ears and eyes. There'll be people in there saying, because I love Jesus, I got this house, I got this car, I got this job. When Jesus wore sandals, wasn't never concerned about no house or no car or no job. That's capitalism, y'all. That's your God is capitalism. And you're worshiping your God when you go to church. And you should on your church have a big symbol for capitalism up there. I guess in many ways, the cross has become the symbol of capitalism. You know, this is not a diatribe against Christianity. Islam is no better. Santeria is no better. They're all of them today in this world are dominated by capitalism. Dominated by capitalism. That doesn't mean that the religions are bad. It just means that the people who you claim to love those forms of faith, you got to rescue your faith from the clutches of capitalism. That's what that means. So don't get mad at me for telling you to do something that if you really understood the faith you say your life is committed to, you would have already figured out everything I just said and been working on that years ago. So that's the challenge with this reality we face now, is that capitalism defines love. And the way capitalism defines love is it defines it as you doing everything you can to achieve material success, because that means that you're supporting and contributing to the capitalist system. So this leaves us with this backward reality, like the picture. I talked about this coon here that does these shows and is always berating African women on them. And this is what you get from that. You know, because he's always talking about these stupid little individual antidotes and using those to substitute for a qualitative analysis about what's going on with our people and African women, and using those stupid anecdotal things like, well, African women are angry. Well, every African woman has every right to be angry. Every African man has every right to be angry. Every animal on the planet has a right to be angry. Every gender non-binary person has a right to be angry. In fact, any person that has any sense of humanity that's paying attention to what the hell is going on in the world today has every right to be angry. And if you're not angry, I don't want to have anything to do with you. In fact, what I would suggest you do is jump in the middle of the Atlantic or the Pacific or the Indian or any of the main oceans in the world without a life jacket where nobody can save you, because you're not doing anything to contribute to addressing any of these problems we face on the planet Earth. So this is only acceptable where African women are angry all the time, because the only analysis that we have is this superficial based capitalist analysis. And because of that, relationships are seen primarily as just a means to an end. You get a person based on what they can do for you. That's how you pursue a relationship with someone, based on what they can do for you. And that's it. And that's how a lot of people view relationships. It's just based on what the person can bring into my life on a material level. How much money do they have that I can benefit from? What kind of material resources do they have that I can benefit from? Nobody anymore is talking about relationships from the standpoint of spiritual growth together, of building a relationship with each other where there's trust. People don't even believe that that's possible anymore. So we're not talking about that, which is really what love is, because you can't endure 40, 50, 60 years of being spit on by your people. I'm saying figuratively, being spit on for your people for trying to organize them for justice, unless you have a strong sense of that kind of love that I'm talking about. So clearly it is possible. And all of us who do this work are living proof that it's possible. But in this capitalist paradox, relationships are defined just based on these this means to an end approach, because the real values of what make quality in human life, like trust, vulnerability, those are seen as weaknesses. And that of course is the work of capitalism. That's what capitalism wants you to think, that to be vulnerable, to have trust is weakness, because capitalism doesn't make room for any of those things. You know, that's a vicious dog eat dog. Y'all say it, it's a dog eat dog system. Well, that's because it's capitalism. That's why. That doesn't mean that everything on earth operates like that. In fact, most things don't operate like that. But as long as we have this system, that'll be the thing at the end of the day that triumphs, because that's what this system is based upon. So capitalist holidays, like, you know, if you want to talk about Valentine's Day or Christmas or Easter or whichever one you're talking about, you know, none of these commemorations are really about what they say they're about. They really aren't. None of them are about that. Valentine's Day isn't about promoting love. There's nothing about Valentine's Day that promotes love. Because if Valentine's Day was really about promoting love, then the focus would be on building healthy communication tools between people so they can communicate better, helping folks practice mechanisms that can help them trust one another on a higher level. It would be about those kind of things. If it was really about promoting love, it's not about any of that. And I'm not, if people are so empty-headed that they're taking what I'm saying, well, he talking against Valentine, then please just log off your computer right now, because you're certainly wasting your time and you're wasting our time as well. That is not the message that we have here. What we're saying is that these holidays are not about what they say they're about, and we're providing you clear, irrefutable evidence that that's true. Instead, these holidays are about the sole purpose of advancing the capitalist system by promoting consumerism. And consumerism promotes loyalty to the capitalist system, because as long as you can, there's depression, because your humanity is under vicious and constant assault under capitalism. You're constantly being reminded how incompetent you are and how worthless you are in the capitalist system. Every second of every day, all of us are reminded of that. So people have to adopt these habits in order to try to numb that pain. And so being able to go out and buy something is one of the many habits that capitalism affords you to be able to numb that pain. It doesn't matter whether it's drinking alcohol or getting high on weed or cocaine or whatever, or gambling or going to the store and spending money. All of this stuff, at some point, for large swatches of these people that live in these backward societies, it's all about trying to escape the pain that this capitalist system brings us on a day-to-day basis. So what these holidays are about are encouraging you not to become better human beings, but to go out and spend money. Oftentimes money that you can't really afford to spend. But don't worry about that. Go in hock, go in credit debt, but spend that money because it'll give you 5 minutes of numbness. It'll help you forget that empty feeling that you have from the capitalist system for 5 minutes. And that 5 minutes might be the only 5 minutes that day that you can do that. So that's why you're going to go out and do that. And we all are subjected to that every day of our lives. So just understand that clearly. It's irrefutable. These capitalist holidays like Valentine's Day are not about promoting love. They're about advancing the capitalist system through promoting consumerism. Because the more you consume, it becomes an addiction. The more you have to do it. Because that's the only 5 minutes of peace that you have is when you bought that device, that new phone, or when you bought that television or that car or whatever. And so that makes you loyal to the capitalist system because based on how they condition us, you think that's the only way you can get those things. So that's why you support capitalism. And that's how this system operates. It depends upon that from each of us. But don't for 1 second confuse that into thinking that Valentine's Day in some way promotes love. Nothing about that promotes that. Just like nothing about December 25th promotes values of humanity in the birth of Christ. Christ wasn't even born on December 25th. And that day is the biggest consumer holiday of the year. Nobody can dispute that. It's all about spending money in the capitalist system. That's what it's about. Easter, same thing. Go buy some clothes and some candy and some damn eggs and go out there and feel good about yourself for one damn day out of 364 days. That's what it's all about. All these backward so-called holidays are about you spending your money. Go out and buy barbecue stuff for the 4th of July so you can do that. Go out and buy all this food stuff for Thanksgiving so you can, it's all of the buying something is always a part of any holiday associated with the capitalist system. You can't deny it. You can get mad at me for saying it, but you cannot refute that. Whereas the institutions for justice, like African Liberation Day, for example, like Nakba Day for the Palestinian people, right? Like on Thanksgiving for the indigenous people, like Pan-African Women's Day, those types of institutions, those types of holidays, if you will, nothing about those days are about purchasing anything. Nothing about the, and if there is a call for you to purchase something for any of those days, is just to provide some limited resources for the organization sponsoring those days so that they can continue to do their work to organize people for justice. It's certainly not to raise money so that people can put money in their pocket and have more money to promote you spending even more of your money next time around. So that's what these days are about, you all. Nothing else. Nothing else. And so what we need to do is we just can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. You all already know that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing the same way every time and expecting a different outcome. That's insanity, yet that's what we do all the time. These capitalists tell us, well, here's the election, vote for these people, and we just keep doing it, and nothing changes for the better, and we just keep doing it. We don't even see, well, let me see if I can get involved and make sure we strengthen this process for us. We don't even have a mindset to do that. We just keep doing exactly what they're the ones that determine what day they're going to have their elections. We don't do that. We don't even understand the process for the candidates we're voting for, how they even get there. We don't even, if I put a gun to your head and said, answer me what steps are necessary for this person to get on a ballot in this state, 95% of you couldn't tell me if it meant your life. So you're not the one thinking of this stuff. Don't get mad at us for telling you this. You can't refute it. You're not thinking about this stuff. You're not determining this for yourself. You're going along like a sheep. And the herder, the shepherd of the herd is the capitalist system. And so we can't keep doing that, you all. We can't just continue to pretend that we are not perpetuating these backward institutions when we are the very force that's perpetuating these backward institutions. We have to get to the point where we begin to implement serious challenges to these capitalist values that underscore their institutions. And we can't do that by just going out on February 14th and buying up stuff and giving it to someone, giving them some damn candy or whatever we do, and then nothing else to challenge the values of the system. No wonder we're in the situation that we're in. What other situation would you expect us to be in when all we're doing is what the master tells us to do? All we're doing is what our oppressor has laid out for us. Nothing about buying, and I'm not saying, because people, I'm sorry, people are just so stupid in this society. If I say, well, we can't just keep buying flowers, well, he said, don't buy no, log off the goddamn computer and then fill your sink up with hot water and stick your head in it until you lose consciousness, because that's the only good you're doing. That's not what we're saying here. What we're saying is that we cannot expect to just go to the store on the day that they tell us, our enemies tell us, buy flowers, the money goes to our enemies, and then come back and talk about, well, I think for myself. You sound like a goddamn fool saying that. Nothing about what I just described is you thinking for yourself. Nothing about that. That's going along with the program of our enemies. And not saying you can't buy flowers. I bought my wife flowers last week. That's fine, but that's not the only thing that I'm doing. That's the difference between me and you. That's not the only thing that I do. I do all types of work to get people to understand, buy the flowers, but while you're paying for the goddamn flowers, be thinking about the next steps you may need to make to strengthen our work, to overrun these damn people and move them out the way. That's what I'm doing. And we need more people to be doing that. And so the reason we struggle is our lack of organization compared to the organization of the capitalist system. The capitalist system is so organized that it has us doing things that it wants us to do without us even thinking about it. Most of us don't even think about it. We just do what they tell us to do. We don't even know they're the ones telling us to do it. We're so stupid, we think we thought of it ourselves. It's like Kwame Ture said, in capitalism, we react to stimuli and we think we're thinking. We're told, we get a feeling. They started. That's why they start playing the damn Christmas carols in October, you all, because they know that your program, once you hear Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, it's going to get you in that mind to spend your money, because they've been programming you like that your whole life. That's why they play the damn songs. It's just like, you laugh in movies like Get Out when the woman stirred the spoon around the cup to hypnotize the African, but that's what the capitalist system does to us every second of every day. When they play Rudolph and what a twinkle to what the hell, Jingle Bells, whatever the hell that song is, that's what they're spinning the spoon around the cup, you all, and we're reacting to it. As the subliminal forces in our mind are saying, okay, it's time for me to start buying presents, and we go out and do that. And they're realizing the earlier we start, these people are so goddamn stupid, the earlier we start playing these songs and playing these shows on TV, the earlier they'll start spending money with us. Pretty soon they're going to start on December 26th playing the damn thing and keep it going the whole year until December 25th comes around, 364 days later, because they got you that way. And they'll just stop to play stuff for the other institutions that they perpetuate. But that's what it is. And so they're organized. That's how they're able to do things like that. We're disorganized. That's how we're consistently just reacting to what they do and don't have a vision of our own, don't even understand, don't even know what our movements are, don't even know what they are. There's so many Africans out here, for example, that don't know that there's a Pan-African movement, don't know that there's social justice movements independent of the capitalist system, don't have any clue about that. Why? Because your enemy didn't tell you. And the only thing you know is what they told you. And they're not going to tell you about the forces that are genuinely working to overrun them. So you're not going to know because you're waiting on them to tell. Well, I think they're going to tell me. No, hell no, they're not going to tell you. The only thing they're going to tell you is what they keep telling you. Is Coon, go out and be the best slave for us that you could possibly be. Just do it. That's what you need to do. That's the subtle message behind the commercial. Just do it. Just be that slave. Just do it. They're not telling you in that commercial to rise up and over. You think that the Nike commercial is telling you to overthrow capitalism? Just do it. That ain't what they're telling you, to just be the slave that this system wants you to be. That's it. That's all they're saying to you. And so many of us are willing to do it. And the only way that we can put a stop to that and interrupt that is we have to decide that we're going to be committed to building institutions that give us exactly what we need: freedom and liberation. So that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy Valentine's Day. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy Christmas. It doesn't mean any of those things. And if you leave here and say it does, you're a damn liar. What it does mean is that we have to build institutions that give us a pathway to be independent from the thinking of the capitalist system, which is an enemy to all African people all over the planet and all of humanity. That's what it means, you all. Nothing else. So we want to thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you coming through. Please tell people about this program and all the other AAPRP programs. But we want to invite you back next week. There is a political situation that's been happening in Guinea-Bissau. And if you pay any attention to us, you know the APRP in Guinea-Bissau and the African Party for the Independence of Guinea-Bissau, the PAIGC, are very closely connected and related. So we're going to be talking next week about what's happening in Guinea-Bissau, what is the political development there, and why is this an important issue that you should care about, know about, and want to do something about, no matter where you live on the planet Earth. So join us next Sunday, February 25th, for that show. Very important. And then the QR code in the upper left, it has all of the APRP programs that happen on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis whenever they happen. This one is every week. They're at different time frames. So check it out so you can get the information on all of our programs that are happening. And go to our Forward Ever shop and spend money for the African Revolution. Buy clothes, tell your friends so they can buy clothes, tell your family so they can buy clothes, and continue to do that. And hoodcommunist.org, support it. It's an independent revolutionary blog. Please support independent revolutionary African voices. You have to do that. It's very important. If you don't do it, no one will. You can go to betterworld.me, and in there you can get all of these videos, and you can find out all types of information that's necessary to prepare us to do the work that we're doing. Go to www.aaprp-intl.org, aaprp-intl.org. Join the All African People's Revolutionary Party. There are instructions there on how to watch an orientation video and get prepared to come and join us. But don't waste our time. Think it through. Think it over. Like, am I ready to make a commitment? Can I give 10 hours a week in my life to organizing for my people? Don't waste our time. Don't get caught up in, as Fred Hampton called it correctly, the emotionalism movement, and get excited for one day, and then when we try to follow up with you, you don't ever respond. Don't waste our time. Like, that's criminal to do that. If you're not serious, then just acknowledge, I'm not serious about this right now. Well, maybe one day I will be, and we'll be here when you are. But until you get to that point, don't waste our time. But if you are willing to say, and that doesn't mean you have to know everything, it just means I'm ready to get engaged in a process to help my people, and I'm opening myself up to that, then we're the organization for you. Come check us out. We'd love to work with you. And then also on the bottom, Burkina Books in Burkina Faso, one of our projects on the ground in Africa. We want to continue to ask you to become a sponsor there and support that program where we're building revolutionary educational institutions in Burkina Faso. We're doing that with building a youth brigade and all the good work that's happening there. So we encourage you to support that. It's very, very, very important. And of course, my book, A Guide for Organizing Defense Against White Supremacist, Patriarchal, and Fascist Violence. I've had to buy 2 sets of plane tickets, hotels, rent-a-cars, going places to do anti-fascist work. It's none of your damn business where I'm going, because a lot of us run our mouths too much. And you run your mouth and you having dinner and your family is the police, because y'all's family is the police. I have people in my family that are police, but I don't interact with them, and I've told them I don't interact with you, you're police. You know, I don't mess around with you. No offense. You know, whenever you leave that institution, maybe we could talk. But until then, I can't talk to no family members that are police. You represent you the security guards for the enemies of humanity. That's objective. That's just unfortunate, but it's true. So you all sit there and you know you tell them, and then they talk to people, and their people are in these fascist organizations, and they'll know what we're planning. So we don't want to. We can't tell you, but we can say that we are doing this work. And so the way that I fund this work is through the sales of my book. The book is a guide for understanding how to do organizing work to support the Pan-African work we're doing in Africa here in the United States of America. So please buy it. It's only $8. And if you're saying, well, I already bought a copy, well, then buy some more and give them out. Or tell some people, or go to your organization and say, hey, we should get this book and use it for a book reading. Or we should, you know, put it in your city's library. Do some work to help the African Revolution. And don't just think because you spent $10, you've made your contribution. You spent more than that in Target today. You'll spend 5 times that much in your enemy's stores in the next week. So help the African Revolution. We appreciate each and every one of you. Forward ever, backwards never. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening.